Yes. 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 Mm. Mm. Yes, Kevin. Mm. 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 Yes. Yes, Baba. Mm. Kabisa. Mm. Mhm. 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 Mm.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. We'll be starting in like about 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Hiba.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining in. And please let me know if I'm audible.
You're audible. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So I'm really sorry for the delay. There has been something happening in Egypt, and some of our youth activists about environment, they couldn't join in because of that issue. So, but show must go on. So we are here. We will start. So for the starter, I will talk about the organizing team, and then we will move forward towards what is the agenda for today, and then my friend Salim will recap about the previous session, and then we will move over to our speakers, and then we will let the discussion move around the idea. All right, so basically most of you must know now that how this idea started. It just popped in because it was the need of the hour, and when some youth activists are sitting together, so they are bound to talk about such things, and these ideas just emerge like that. So there were four of us who started this initiative about 2 months ago or a month ago, exactly, no specific time. So it was me, Hiba Ikram. There was Salim from Kenya and from Pakistan. We have Asfa Zahra from Pakistan, and we have Dalia from Venezuela. So we were sitting and we were discussing because there were a lot of things that were happening due to the climate change, and we were discussing these things, and we thought that we need to take a step and we need to take some initiative, maybe a little small steps that can move the discussion around climate change and how it is such a grave issue in today's world for all of us. So Asfa Zahra is basically a founder of Peace Club Foundation, which was founded in 2017. She's a founding member, and the PPC, the Pakistan Peace Club Foundation, mobilizes youth through networking, positive activities, and affiliate to engage them in a stronger and unified action for social and political change. And they are working on local level mostly, but it is working in group level as well, on international level as well. We have Salim from Kenya. He has his organization Reimagining New Communities, RNC. It is a peace building and communication organization based in Nairobi, Kenya. And RNC uses storytelling, art, and art based approaches as tool to tell the showcase stories of impact from communities, organizations, and entities working towards attainment of sustainable development goals and other interventions. RNC was founded on strong foundational values that emphasizes on inclusion and support for the low-income communities. We have our organization from Venezuela, which was founded by Dalia. It is called Youth United in Action, and its acronym in Spanish is JUENA, JUENA. It is a non-profit civil association which has been operating and has been working since 2011 and legally registered on December 26, 2013. UNA, or United Youth in Action, is working at an international level. It is a non-government organization, and their main headquarters are in Venezuela. So mostly their focal points are Colombia, Brazil, Spain, Chile, Palestine. And so that's how it, the model that they have, it allows them to take their work to other parts of the world and expanding the results of their projects. Then lastly, we have our organization from Pakistan. I am a founding member of that organization. It's called Beydaar Society. Beydaar means awakening. So it is a youth-led organization, and it aims to create awareness and civic sense in the Pakistani people, mainly youth. And primarily through our projects, we hope to bring a positive change in the various sectors that are facing various sects that are facing oppression and are marginalized on a daily basis. We believe that these neglected groups have the potential to become stronger if only given the right kind of opportunities. For the past 10 years, Beydaar Society has been running various projects and conducting several activities like seminars, symposiums, theater, training sessions, photography, painting, short films, and other soft tools to start the discussion and debate, and to carry on such activities to mobilize the youth. Um, we use media and education as our main tools, and we want to equip our youth, not only just want to help them in a normal way, we want them to stand up on their own and contribute to the society, and be the change that we all want to see in the world. So from here on, I will ask my friend Salim to just, tell us a little about what we had discussed in the past session, and then we can move forward. Salim, please.
Thank you so much, Shiva. Thank you for putting this together. And everyone who is available for this meeting, we thank you so much. So basically, we had our first dialogue series on 21st of this month. And this dialogue series attracted a registration of around 60 participants. But actively, we are able to have around 20 participants from 7 different countries. And it was a very rich conversation that we had that was around, country action plans, what are the strategies, the challenges that the countries are facing in terms of the implementation of their action plans, and also what are some of the achievements so far when it comes to achievement. What is some of the achievement when it comes to the implementation of climate action and outcomes? So we had a very engaging conversation, and some of 6 things came out of last time's, or rather 21st meeting. One of it is that there is need for capacity building and creation of public policies that can be able to promote action and around climate change. Then the other thing that came out really strongly is the need to reduce anything, need to reduce the underlying causes for climate change or to climate change. So we need to be in reality with what is happening, and also focus more on dealing with the root causes to climate change across the globe. Sorry for that. Then thirdly is promotion of how do we now promote, we have created this, or we have designed and developed public policies. How do we promote that from the grassroots level to national level to even international level? And then the fourth thing that really came out strongly is about awareness. So there is need to be able to create awareness around climate change, causes of climate change, and how we can all contribute to getting rid or to stopping climate change. So we need to do a lot of more climate action. And then lastly, we talked about having real commitments, especially from government and decision makers or policy makers. So how do we have a real commitment? And because we talked about, we have COP happening from next week, from this month, in the next month rather, but are people just joining these meetings for the sake of it? Are people just going for this meeting for the sake of it? So how do we make sure that we have real commitment from even policymakers, but also implementers and development agencies? So if people have said, we want to be able to contribute funds towards this, how do we make sure that this is happening from development agencies to grassroots organization? So this is what we are able to discuss last time. And we hope that we can be able to continue this conversation and learn more, especially from Soraya. And we have our partner Dalia, who will also be sharing more. And then we'll look more into how do we now prepare for COP, because we also want to be able to have conversation online on the proceedings at COP 27. So how do we contribute from not the sidelines, but how do we contribute from countries, and how do we capture some of the discussion that will be going on in Egypt next month? Thank you so much and welcome. And this session is live on Facebook. So we can share with you it's live on Facebook. You can share if you're on Facebook, you can send your Facebook name, then we can share with you. Thank you so much, and looking forward to learn from each one of you. Thank you. Back to you, Hiba.
Yes. Hi. Okay, so today's theme is advocating for a just planet, and we'll be talking more about the climate justice. I would like to introduce our speaker for today, Suraya Jabin. Um, let me tell you about the brief introduction of Suraya, and then we will move forward towards a small short video that our friend Asta had created for this session, and then we will move towards Suraya, and we'll learn about her thoughts and her learnings. So Dr. Suraya Jabin is currently working as an assistant professor at the Institute of Environmental Studies, University of Karachi. She has 19 years of experience of teaching and research. She has 31 national and international publications in the reputed journals. Her main area of research is water and wastewater and industrial pollution management, public health and hygiene, bioremediation, of hazardous waste and integrated waste management. So this basically sums up mostly all the prominent climate issues that we are facing as societies. So thank you so much, Suraya, for being here. We are really glad that you could join, and we really look forward to learn from you. Um, uh, Salim, can you make me the host so that I can share the video?
Okay, let me see.
Yeah.
I'm struggling. As I work on this, can you invite Suraya? And then we also have Carmen, who also.
Okay, we have Carmen and Talia.
Ready.
All right, so we have Carmen Capri. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your names right. I'm really sorry. So we also have Carmen, and Carmen is from Bolivia. Sorry, yeah. Carmen Capriles is a feminist environmental activist, organizer, and an advocate from Bolivia. She has founded the volunteer organization Acción Climática for about 20 years ago, with the aim to raise awareness about environmental problems like the melting of glaciers of the Andean mountains and the impact of climate change on vulnerable population, promoting the conservation of biodiversity, the importance of protected areas, and recently exploring the impacts of chemicals in women like pesticides in agriculture or mercury from mining. She advocates for women's rights and gender equality in processes like UNFCCC, CBD, HLPF, UNIA, and a promoter of a SCAZO agreement of the LAC region. She concluded her studies as an agricultural engineer from the University of San Andres, Bolivia, and she specialized on sustainable rural development in EICA, Egypt. Thank you so much, Carmen, for joining us, and thank you so much, Dalia, for joining in as well. Salim, are you able to make me share the screen, or should we move forward to our speakers?
I'm still working on it, so maybe we can move forward.
Okay. Thank you so much, Carmen and Suraya. So may I ask Suraya to start and talk a little about the theme and what you have learned, what can we learn, what we all can learn about climate justice, and how can we advocate towards a just planet?
Can you hear me?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, thank you very much, Hiba, for inviting me on this forum of the webinar. I would like to talk about the climate action, primarily about the solution to the problem of the climate change. First of all, we have to learn about it, that it's happening. Let's not ignore it anymore, because climate is changing. It's a controversial debate for many societies. They think that sometimes it's not happening, but it's not the reality. It is really happening. Okay. And we require more and more participation of the citizen, and your effort is very much appreciated, that what you are doing, all that, especially and not only in the advanced economies, but also in the developing world, like countries like we belong. We have to preserve a livable climate, and the greenhouse emissions, they must be reduced by half by 2030, and especially to the net zero by 2050. And we need a big action for that. Definitely, everyone of us, they can help limit the global warming and take care of the planet. Our planet is our ecosystem. It is our home. We have to make our own choices that have less harmful effects on the environment. So we have to do justice with our environment, with our planet. We can definitely be the part of the solution, and we can influence the change if we work hand in hand together. So how we can tackle the climate crisis? The leaders, they must lead, but all of us, they must do our part. It's not like only the government has to do each and everything. It's we ourselves, that you belong different NGOs, I belong to the university, the academic institutions, the schools, and people, they are coming from different walk of life. So this is really true, that we have to speak up. We have to get others to join in taking action. It's one of the quickest and most effective way to make a difference. We have to talk about, we have to urge our city, our citizens, and then we have to build the leaders to act. Speaking and taking action is very, very important for us. Already, people have spoken a lot about it, but there are so many applications on the mobile apps, and different kinds of NGOs, they are working with their volunteer works. And even in our research institute, we are boosting our students, that they have to work, volunteer work to save the climate. So globally, we have to act in a very just way. So there are a lot of deception and misleading information about the climate change, and we find different kinds of facts and figures about it, but we should not spread the misinformation like that. There should be the true information that helps us to mobilize the urgent action needed for the to solving the climate change problem. Since 19th century, we know that the Earth has warmed 1.1 degrees Celsius, and according to a UN report, they addressed that the consequences of warming, they are by 1.5 degrees Celsius, or I think 2 degrees Celsius. So it's the temperature is enhancing. And what are the effects of these this problem? We are suffering from heat waves that we suffered in Karachi in 2015. We have water shortages. We have coastal floods. We had a very bad effect of flood in this year, 2022. And half a degree could also mean the difference between the world with coral reefs and air around the polar caps and the world without them. So these are the facts and figures that we should be knowing, and we should disseminate the knowledge among all the people. Our lifestyle matters a lot, and we have a profound impact on our planet. Our planet is our home, and we are the one who have to take care about the planet. Around 2/3 of the global greenhouse gas emissions, they are linked with the private households, the energy consumption, and the food preparation, in the transport sector, and there are about 20% of the lifestyle emissions from electricity we use, to the food we eat, the way we travel, the things we buy, the time we spend, all these things, they can make a difference for the climate justice. Like, for example, we know that we are living in the subtropical region. We are having heat waves, hot summers, and there are different appliances. They consume a lot of energy, like air conditions. They consume a lot of energy. We need to have save energy equipments at our home. We have to save energy. Different kinds of appliances like we are using, they must be saving the energy, because that energy is going to consume the fossil fuel, and that fossil fuel, as a result of combustion process, they are emitting carbon dioxide. That is one of the most important greenhouse gas, causing the global warming effect and leading to the climate change in our society. These things, they are very, very important. We have to take into account that we have to improve our home, our offices, the energy efficiency through better insulation, for instance, for replacing our oil or gas furnace with an electric heat pump. So these can be very helpful for us. We have stopped walking and biking. We are using private vehicles for transportation. We should use the public transport. So there must be a change in the behavior of people. We should be walking a lot and using the private vehicles. The transportation mean less. That can be very helpful. And again, agricultural activities, they also contribute in the climate change phenomena, like rearing the animals, farming, that emits more and more carbon dioxide, the greenhouse gas. But on the other hand, if we are eating more and more vegetables, the grains, the legumes, the nuts and the seeds, they are going to have the less carbon dioxide emissions on the planet. So again, we can improve our habits so that we can have a better planet for living. In the same way, we have to consider about the traveling. Like the airplanes, they burn large amount of fossil fuel. They're producing significant greenhouse gas emissions like methane, carbon dioxide, and there must be the few flights of the fastest way to reduce our environmental impact. So these things are a little bit difficult for us, but we have to think about it. We have to rethink it, and there must be less consumption of the fossil fuel that is causing more and more emissions of the greenhouse gases. There are different carbon footprints, like the airplane that emits 49% of the greenhouse gas emissions. On the other hand, we have other transportation system services. They are emitting less greenhouse gases, like services and buses and trains. And they should be having the habit of saving the food. Food security is a big issue that is causing climate change. We have to save the food for saving the energy, because a lot of energy is used to grow, to produce, to package and transport it. It's a huge cycle, the process of the food. And after, when the food comes on our table, a lot of food is being wasted. So this habit has to be changed by all the dwellers of the earth. That is going to save a lot of energy, and the emissions of the greenhouse gas will become a lot less and less. And then we have the 5R technology, like we can reduce the waste, we should be reusing the things, we should go for the repair, we should go for the recycling, and we should refusing the plastic bags, things like that, so that again, it's going to save our planet from the climate change. So reduce, reuse, recycle, these are very old phenomena people we all are knowing, but it's very important that we have to we have to make it our habit that we should not discard each and everything like that because we are having money and we should be spending all the time. This is not good. And for the organic waste, we can go for the composting so that that waste they can be reused, and we can have the fertilizers for growing of the gardens, the parks, and all things like that. Changing the energy sources at our home, we can do that definitely, not only at our home, but in industries. Industries nowadays, they are going for the renewable resources like windmill and the solar parks, so that they can utilize the green energy and the safe energy. Even at our home, we can see that people, they are moving towards green energy. They are having the solar panels on their roof. So this is something good, and we have to shift towards it quickly, so that there must be less consumption of the energy and the fossil fuel. And there must be so many ways that we have to start using the renewable energy transition. Like solar panels, they are very good, especially for the countries like us, the countries which lie on the equator and the subtropical, tropical, and the subtropical regions. They can utilize this kind of usage of the energy, and we can switch to electric vehicles. Electric cars are being synthesized, but the charging those cars, that again consumes the energy a lot. So directly, it's not a very good option for us. We can have the solar cars, and if we are not having the solar cars, then we should be having the electric cars. And we have to make our money count. We should be knowing that where we are spending our money, is that the climate safe account or not. So like we are digitalizing all the systems in the offices and industries, so that there is less use of the paper, and there is less spending of the money on the paper. So that is a good option for us. So climate change, definitely it is going to affect us. And what we can do, especially for the region like us, we can do the reforestation, we can do the afforestation, so that our planet can be again in the same way we are having a good climate. And reforestation is like wherever the forests are being cut down, we have to support the growth of those plantation. And if you are living in the urban region like Karachi, which is a cosmopolitan city, and we have high-rise building and the city, then we can have on the rooftop, we can have the plantation, or on the horizontal pattern on the buildings, we can have the growth of the plantation. And the regions where the plant have been cut down in the past, we can plant the new forestation. We can do the urban forestation. That is a good option for us. And that is going to take quite some time, a few decades. Sorry, the trees, they are going to grow, and they take 7 years for their full growth. And here it is important that we have to go for the indigenous flora. And what is indigenous flora? It is those plants which are present in the particular ecosystem. Like in our region, we have neem plants and jamun and the mango trees. These are the indigenous plants. We have to go for that. We should not go for the exotic species that are being purchased from other countries, and we have to put a lot of money on that, and that is going to take a lot of time, because those species are not going to grow easily. So it is very important, and especially we should not go for the monoculture. Monoculture is the growth of only single plant. This is not good for the climate. We should be going for the various type of the species which are of the indigenous kind and present in our region. And the waste management, integrated waste management, is a very, very important phenomena for the third world countries and the developing countries. The filth is everywhere we go. The solid waste management, we should start the solid waste management. We should start the composting for the organic waste that we have. We are going to teach our students that how they can do the composting and how they can enhance that process, because the process of biodegradation is very slow. So we can mechanize the system and can go for the anaerobic digestion, and those things which are very, very harmful, only they can be incinerated. And finally, the final option for the waste disposal is the landfill. We do have so many landfill sites in Karachi, but we should be having the safe landfill sites. They should be protected. They should not be in a way that you can see all the waste inside the inside all those pits of the landfills. And we should stop using the plastic bags. We should using all the reusable substances like the cloth bags and the jute bags. These are a good option for us. They're very simple things. We have to change our behavior in a way that we should protect our environment, because this waste is not going to degrade for 100 of years. It's not going to be biodegraded. That remains, and our planet is going to be converted into plastic planet by 2050. And this report is being given by UNO. And this is something very bad, because not only our land has become filthy because of all that plastic, but all that plastic is going into the seas and oceans, and these oceans, they are having big plastic islands. Like we have a great plastic patch in the Pacific Ocean. We do have in other oceans like Indian Ocean and Atlantic Ocean. So the thing is that the earth is our home. We have to live over here, and these are simple and little things that we should do that. And because this is our only home, we're not going to Mars or any other planet. We have to think about the planet. We have to think about the afforestation, the reforestation, the waste management. These things are very, very important things. And in this way, only in this way, we can do the justice to our planet, because we had made this planet a very, very filthy place to live. And there are certain other some consequences and some different ideas of the scientists. They say that we can go for the geoengineering. These are the simple concepts about controlling the climate change. We can have we can just reflect the solar radiations which are coming from the sun in the space. We can have big mirrors that can reflect those solar radiations, so that they should not capture the carbon dioxide is not going to capture those solar radiations and making the planet warmer and warmer. And so these are the things. I think I have talked a lot. Heba, you can, over to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Raya, for talking about such diverse things that we really need to talk about now, and we really need to know, specifically our youth needs to know all these things, so that we can save whatever is left of this planet, and we can, retain what we have, and we can make this planet livable again. Thank you so much for enlightening us with your thoughts and with your work that you have. I would like to share my screen and show you guys a little video that Aspa has created, and then we can move forward to Carmen to tell us about her perspective of how we can make this planet just in the perspective of climate. How can we advocate to make this planet a just planet for all of us? Let me just show you the videos, like 2 to 3 minutes video, and then we can move towards Carmen.
Is today's world only threatened by terrorism and terrorists? Is the destruction of the world hidden in nuclear war or nuclear weapon? These are the questions in which the policies and the politics of the world are revolving around. Budget of the countries, other measures, and excess of the policies are in the siege of terror. But the realities change. In today's world, climate change is the new reason of terror. Let me share the data. Between 1998 to 2017, more than 500,000 people lost their lives in just 10 years. And according to a limited estimate, about 3.47 trillions of dollars were lost due to climate change. In the year 2021, there were 432 disastrous events related to natural hazards worldwide, and 44% of disasters have been associated with floods, storms, heavy and unexpected rain, longer and extreme hot and cold seasons are the different forms of seasonal terrorism. Today, 198 countries on the map of this world are in real danger because of climate change. Many countries and cities may not exist in the future. Climate change refers to long-term shifts in temperature and weather patterns. These shifts may be natural, such as through variation in the solar cycle. But since the 1800th century, human activities have been the main driver of climate change, primarily due to burning fossil fuel like coal, oil, and gas. It is pertinent to mention here that climate change has been termed as the gravest human rights violation in the history, and Pakistan is today a living testament of the assertion. Human security is important. The United Nations General Assembly adopted the resolution on human security in year 2012, but it is not possible without environmental protection. According to the German Watch Climate Risk Index, in the South Asian region, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Afghanistan are among the top 10 countries that are badly affected by climate change. While Pakistan's share in the current global greenhouse gas emission, especially carbon emissions, in just 0.6%. This map also shows that African countries are also among the countries with the lowest carbon dioxide emission. On the other hand, a map shows how developed regions and countries are contributing carbon emission, such as China is sharing 27.8% of total carbon emission globally per year. I am presenting the case of Pakistan here. Over the past 5 months, the country has braved scorching heat waves, recording the hottest temperature on the globe, flaming forest fires, enhanced glacier melt, and now facing an epilotic flood triggered by unforgiving monsoon rains and glacier burst in the mountains. Pakistan has now entered into a crisis which is caused by developed countries. A population of over 33 million people of Pakistan has been badly affected by the recent floods in Pakistan, while more than 1,700 people, including 500 children, have lost their lives. Apart from this, 12,860 people, including 4,000 children, have been injured. The damage caused by the recent floods is more than the 2010 floods. According to initial estimate, over $40 billion crop has washed out. About 1,300 kilometers of roads, 374 bridges, and more than 2 million houses have been destroyed, while about 1 million livestock have also died due to floods in 116 affected districts of Pakistan. There are 84 districts which have been officially declared disaster prone. This entire calamity will have long-term negative effect on economy of Pakistan, not only today but also in the future, along with food security, health, and education of people. The scale of the challenge in both human and financial terms is unprecedented. Moreover, climate change doesn't care about borders, religion, color, race, or country's GDP. It is estimated that more than 200 million people worldwide will be displaced by the climate emergency till 2050. As with many other weather and hazard-related disasters, the increased quantity and intensity of hurricanes are directly related to climate change. According to the New York Times, the link between hurricane and climate change have become clearer and each passing years become stronger worldwide during the past 4 decades. A warming planet can expect stronger hurricane over time and a higher incidence of the most powerful storms. Right now, two-thirds of the earth is currently turning into desert. That will strike food insecurity soon. And it is estimated that by 2050, 1 billion people will be refugees of climate desertification. In addition, due to rising temperature, oceans are rising and many cities will go underwater. No one can exactly predict the calamity of weather, but environmental scientists are predicting which major world cities are most likely to be underwater first. Here is the list of few cities such as Tokyo, Mumbai, New York, Jakarta, Istanbul, Kolkata, Osaka, Bangkok, London, Dhaka, Ho Chi Minh, San Francisco, Miami, Alexandria, Sydney, Boston, Lisbon, Portugal, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Vancouver, Copenhagen, Dublin, Honolulu, Venice, Amsterdam, Malé, Badin, Karachi. But this cycle will not be ended until we quickly take climate actions and zero carbon policy imposed worldwide. According to the report of about 1,300 independent environmental scientists of the United Nations, 95% of the activities on Earth are caused by humans. In the last 150 years, the Industrial Revolution, in the name of modern civilization, has put the world in danger. And the last 50 years are counted among the worst years. And as it was said at the beginning, that Pakistan has joined the 3 countries in the world which are among the first victim of climate change. We are also among the 5th most vulnerable countries. Environmental justice requires that all living beings on planet Earth are equally respected and protected. World needs to impose emergency measures before it's too late to curb climate terrorism. Asfa Zahra from Pakistan.
All right, everyone. We can share the link to this video as well. But before for the delay, I would like to thank Carmen to join us for joining us, and please shed some light on the theme that we are talking about. Please, whenever you are available, Carmen.
Hello, and thank you for the invitation. Well, I think we're facing a very interesting scenario right now. When we started talking about climate change, well, after being an activist for more than 10 years, one of the things that I'm certain is that local action helps a little, but it's not the solution. We are facing a planetary crisis. We are facing a global crisis. So we need global actions. So, and for the last 10 years, the movement has been diminished by the speech that it's our fault, it's everybody's fault. When we know whose fault is it, we know what are the companies, the fossil fuel companies that right now are responsible for what's going on. One of the main difference between the Montreal Protocol, which was the protocol that addressed the ozone layer, and the Paris Agreement, that's the one that addresses climate change, is that the Montreal Protocol addressed companies. And so that's where there has been so much lobby by companies. So the Paris Agreement is not focused on companies. And it's the same thing that is happening in the negotiations of the plastic agreement. They are putting all the blame on the consumers and not on the companies that are doing. We know companies have known about the impacts of plastics and packagings for the last 2 decades, and they have done nothing. So now that's why we're facing the plastic islands that we have in the main oceans in the world. So that's why it's important that we're going to push for something. It has to be global. It has to be to governments. It has to be to companies, to find them accountable for what they do, and kind of like disengage the myths that we have. For example, we think that that flying causes a lot of damage in terms of climate change, which is true. But in terms of emissions, the dairy industry, and not meat industry, we're talking only about dairy industry, emits more emissions than the airplane industry. So if we're going to have to change our habits, it has to be in relation to basically meat. That's probably one of the best places where we can really help the environment. We know that in many places of the world, the average of meat consumption, it will be like 40 kilos per year. And the studies have shown us that we only need to consume 25 grams of meat a day. That's not being a vegetarian, that's not being a vegan, only 25 grams of meat. That means that in a year, we should consume around 8 kilos of meat. Even if we make it to 10, like a global average, we are going to become more sustainable. But if we keep that 40%, 40 kilos a year average, that means that we need more land, more deforestation, especially in tropical areas. And the thing about deforestation is that we have a solution for deforestation, which is reforestation. And that's not true, because reforestation is the same as monoculture. If you're opposing to monoculture, of tree monoculture, then you're opposing to reforestation because it's the same scheme. So we need to look for schemes that regenerate the ecosystems in a natural way, because we must not forget that the reforestation is not going to help the fauna back. It's not going to help the animals go back to the ecosystems. If we want to restore the ecosystems, we need to have that approach of restoration, of regeneration, and take those measures. And conservation right now, it's key. Because for many years, we've been talking about conservation like it's a bad word, that we cannot do conservation because we need to use the resources, especially if we're in the South, because those resources are going to take us out of poverty. We have been doing that during 50 decades, and we have seen no results. We're still developing countries. None of us have been able to cross that line. Some of us are like second income countries, but that's it. We're still facing poverty problems, and we're still based on natural resources systems, extractivist systems that are not benefiting local communities and that are not benefiting the populations. That's also why it's important that we find our governments accountable, because every time we will go to these meetings or we hear from these international meetings, governments are the angels that are doing everything right. But what we need to do is find them accountable at national level in our countries, because if not, it's not going to change anything. So we need, if civil society has to do something, is to start a movement to keep on pushing companies out of the negotiations, find companies and governments accountable, and start pressuring those. Change of habits is great, always is great. But for us, the truth is that even adding up, after all that we have seen in recycling, in energy change, in many of these aspects, even changing diets, things are not going to be solved if there isn't political will. So what we need to enforce is political will. So I would tell everybody to keep changing habits and make them more healthy, but because you want to. But if you really want to change the situation, if you really want to find solutions to a global crisis like climate change, it's not about me. It's not about my bag. It's not about my light bulb. It's about governments. It's about companies. It's about politics. So that's where we have to be. And also it's about knowledge. Unfortunately, climate change is a very complex, it's a very complex problem that includes a lot of science, a lot of scientific data that we need to start managing, and that has to become our everyday language. How many emissions are we emitting? What is CO2? What is methane? What is the impact that it has on the environment? Is CO2 more deadly than methane? And we haven't gotten to that discussion after a decade of being activists, because there isn't that, it's a complicated issue, especially from the global south. Education system do not manage chemic, physics, biology, and all those terms as much as we would like to, because of the education systems in the south. So that is, if there is one recommendation that I could do to global activists all around the world, is to get a little bit into science, a little bit into all this complexity to try to understand. And because climate change is not only a thing about economy or society, it's an issue of science. And science is the one that's telling us that we are going, that we have crossed the threshold, that we're crossing the threshold actually, and what we can do. So that's one of the things I would recommend. Thank you very much. I don't know if I have exceeded my time limit.
Thank you so much, Carmen. It was very, very enlightening. No, you haven't. Like, if you have more, we are all here to listen to this. So if you want to add something else, you can do that.
Okay, then probably I can share some slides to make my point a little bit more clear. Well, when we are talking about the Paris Agreement, we're talking about 2 degrees. The IPCC reports and all the reports have said that we have exceeded already the 1 degree average. But still, if any of you have had fever anytime within the last 2-3 years where we've been facing COVID, you know that if you have a fever, you are not going to be able to go to school, go to work, or do anything. Just stay home. So the 2 degrees is not the best option. And also because temperature is not under control. Emissions are. That's why we were hoping for an agreement that was based on emissions, because that's what we can calculate. We are not able to calculate per se the 2 degrees. So the emissions, yes, we know where the emissions are coming. And studies said that 350 parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere should be the annual average to maintain our ecosystems and this whole planet on a healthy way. If we exceed, and now we are way over 400, around 420, then temperature starts exceeding. Ironically, the last time we had 350 parts per million of CO2 in our atmosphere was in the year 1987, when actually the definition of sustainable development came, which was to meet our needs, to meet the needs of our present generation without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. But what's going on if we start talking about the carbon budget for 2 degrees per generation? We can see this pie graphic. We can see the generations from 1750, when it's like the time that the Industrial Revolution starts, to 2250. So if we divide our carbon budgets by generation, actually my generation is the one that has used the most energy of this planet. A little bit our parents, especially those who are blaming baby boomers, but nobody, no other generation has have or will have so much access to energy as we do. Not the X generation, which is this one, the one of orange, which is my generation, or between millennials and Z generation, which is the new generation that it's in yellow. And for our grandchildren, there's going to be even less access to energy because everything that we're facing, climate change, war, and so on, especially if we are talking about the 2 degrees budget. So it's very important to understand that how the ability we have of resources right now is having an impact on the planet. And how is that distributed? Well, we can see this is a picture of the world at night. You can clearly find cities here. Well, I come from Bolivia, where you can only see a couple of spots, but the north is pretty clear, which are the biggest cities like New York or Paris or Rome or Japan, for example. And you can see where the lack of energy is having. And why are we talking about energy? Because energy is the first consumer of fossil fuels, and of course, one of the main contributors to climate change. That's why we're talking about renewable energy. But at the same time, renewable energy has another kinds of problems that come with them. But in the other hand, what we can see here are the maps of the forests that are burning, especially in Latin America, in sub-Saharan Africa, and in Asia. And why is this deforestation happening? Because of palm oil, because of a bigger demand on meat, because soybean, everything that has soybean, everything that has palm oil, you can watch it in the ingredients in almost every product, is causing this deforestation and this burning of the forest. So in that sense, if we don't have forests, we don't have carbon sinks. So all the carbon will stay in the atmosphere, and that will cause climate change. Sorry, I still have another slide that I would like to share. I don't know why I jump out of it. And it's that the earth is not flat. We think that what's happening in the north will impact the south. But what this is a picture of NOAA, of the NASA, that is showing us the red color is carbon dioxide and the purple color is methane. Carbon dioxide is coming from the burning of is coming from fossil fuels that are affecting the north. But in the south, we can see the purple, which is the methane that is coming from the burning of the forest. You can identify where CO2 is coming, of course, that's where the forests are burning, but most of it is generating methane. And because Coriolis's effect, emissions from the north are not going to come to the south. And that is very important that activists of the south understand, because the emissions are going to have a more local impact in the north. So this kind of graphics that kind of like make us see that the problem is the north. The problem is the north because the inequalities, the historic inequalities that there have been, colonization problems, but not about emissions. And that's important to have it in mind. We know that climate change is very complex. It doesn't only take one aspect. We need to have a wider vision of what's going on to really identify the different aspects that are causing it. So that's why it's also, as I was saying, important to read, to get involved, and to understand. So I hope that has been a little bit more complementary. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmen. That was really nice. The way you explained along with the slides really helped us a lot. Suraya, if you want to add something to what Carmen has shared so far.
Thank you very much, Carmen, what you have added. But I think that afforestation is very important. Reforestation is very important, especially the regions where the forests have been cut down, and they are going to they are the big sink for the carbon dioxide, whatever emissions they are happening in the atmosphere. These are only the plantation which is going to provide the shadow for us and making the ecosystem better. And under the trees we can feel sometimes 3 or 4 degrees less temperature of the degree Celsius of the temperature. So yeah, thank you very much, Carmen. I appreciate whatever you have added, and definitely this also adds with the region. Region is very important, because these are the region which are more prone to the effects of the climate change, and we have to change our habits and all those practices that cause more and more emissions. So we have to control it. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suraya. Thank you so much. Dalia, as we all know that you have been really active in terms of climate and environment. You are a climate and environment activist as well. Would you like to share a word or two with all of us?
Yes, thank you so much, Hiba. So I really appreciate all the comments of the previous speakers, and I am totally agree with you. At this moment, I would like to talk a little bit more about how environmental injustice looks. So on the ground, environmental injustice looks like the loss of biodiversity, the violation of fundamental rights or human rights, people affected by the consequences of climate change, by example. Climate change have an impact in the life of people, affecting their source of resources, their health, and their environment. So what we have to do to thrive this situation or to face climate change? In my perspective, reduce deforestation is something that we need to do as soon as possible. I would like to highlight that in Latin America, we have a big problem with deforestation. By example, in Venezuela, in my country, we are facing the worst deforestation in our history in a territory in which one indigenous people live. So we need to try to look for other activities and reduce deforestation. Also, of course, we need to go through sustainable consumption and production. This is linked with what Carmen says before. We need to be really careful about what we eat and the process and the procedures of the things that we consume. By example, we know that, yes, meat produce a lot of deforestation, gases, etc. So we need to try to reduce the consumption of those things that increase climate change. But also we need to demand from our governments and the places in which we live for new policies. Because at this moment, we are talking about what we need to do to achieve environmental justice. So yes, we need to add to reduce climate change, to mitigate climate change, but at the same time, we need to face the consequences of climate change. So we need policies to reduce the damages that comes with climate change. And I have to say this because now there are a lot of countries in Latin America affected by climate change. We have climate refugees in the region. And I know that this is the same in other countries and in other regions. So another thing that I think that we need to do to ensure environmental justice is to recognize the ecocide as a crime against humanity. Why? Because ecocide comes with persecution against environmental defenders, lack of information, and lack of laws and institutions and resources to ask for justice. The ecocide affects especially those that don't have spaces to speak loud. By example, vulnerable groups like indigenous communities, people who live in rural areas, women, children, and youth. Ecocide at the same time caused the displacement of hundreds of people and species due to the damage that makes impossible for them to be there, due to the dangers that the pollution and the environmental damage represent for their health. So for sure, we need to recognize the ecocide as a crime against the humanity in the Rome Statute. So to summarize, I think that we need to go through sustainable consumption and production. We need to reduce deforestation. We need to put end to all the activities that increase climate change, but not only climate change, also any kind of damage against environment. And we need to have an instrument to persecute crimes against environment like ecocide. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dalia. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. Like we are like running short on time now, so I would like to open the floor for the QA. So if anyone has any question from our panelists, so you can ask.
Thank you, Hiba. I have a question to Kamel. So Kamel, you said that local action is important and it's that people actually, it can help, but we need to think more on global solution. But my question is, most of the time we have so many global conversation going on and we don't have the local man or, you know, people in those remote areas involved. And therefore, even when you go to ask them if they understand what climate change is, they cannot be able to explain to you. So how do we make sure that these people who are actually facing the wrath of climate crisis are at the center of conversation and policies and even implementation of whichever programs that the government is coming up with or the key players are coming up with? Thank you.
Thank you. Actually, that's not, of course, that's not an easy, there isn't an easy answer. But yeah, we have to do that ants work of spreading the word and teaching our peers what is going on. I think community is really important for this. I do believe that for climate change, we need global actions, but it's important to start at community level. Communities can be strong, communities can reinforce each other, but if our community doesn't know the problem, of course, it's never going to be able to act. Therefore, we everybody who knows, who understands climate change has the not obligation, but it would be great if they explain their peers, their families, their neighborhoods, their community, whether it's a physical community or a community based on some interest, common interest, what is going on, what is the problem, and what can be done. We have tried to do this a lot back in Bolivia. For example, what we have developed is we have a program which are the Andean walks, and the Andean walks are a call against a call to action to climate change. So let me share my screen one more time. Because what we do is actually we take people, like normal people, to the Andes, to different places to see how the glaciers are melting. So it is important to kind of like notice and have and be witness of what's going on in order to understand the problem. So here's like an example. We went on 2012 to this place, which is Tunicondoriri, and it's one of the main water resources from for my city, and we can see how much we have lost. Like all this glacier that you can see here is almost gone, and it will be gone in the next 5-10 years. So those are the examples so people can really see what's going on, and it's important to go where the action is happening. Here we are in the same glacier in Tunicondoriri, but near the glacier, you can see how deep it was. You could put, it was until your knee. 5 years later, the glaciers disappeared. So if people can see these examples, will understand better what is going on, and it's better, it will make people more committed to the cause and to take action. So I think that's important to point out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Carmen. I think Dali has a question as well.
Yes, I just want to add how important is to ground the global agreements at the local levels. One of the big problems that we have been facing with the international agreements since 1972 is that we have one declaration or one agreement, but at global level. So communities doesn't have any idea about this. They don't know that they have the right to demand to the local authorities actions, new policies, to ground that global agreement on the local level. And I am totally agree with Carmen about the relevant local actions. And in my perspective, we need to try to add in all the different levels. So we need to know that localities, local communities, local NGOs, local groups have a key role in the achievement of environmental justice. If we start from local, then go through national level and take the global agreements and demand its application at a national and global level, we will be more closer to achieve this environmental justice. By example, we are talking about sustainable consumption and production because this will help us to have a better planet and to have good processes in harmony with environment and etc. But how can we start to put this beautiful word into practice? We can, as consumers, by example, start to buy locally. By example, start to eat the fruits of the season. That is a little action that will have a huge impact reducing the food print that we have annually. Also, as entrepreneurs, by example, we can try to go through sustainable entrepreneurship and avoid any kind of activity that can have a bad impact against environment. So yes, we need to add at local level. Of course, global level is important because all the international agendas are decided there in the huge global spaces. But we need to know that the communities also have a really, really important role in all these activities to achieve environmental justice.
Thank you, Dalia. Do we have questions from anyone else? All right, I think over to you, Sally.
I have one last question, and Kamel or Suraya can answer this. So recently, our new president came up with a plan to, so I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, and so plan to plant 5 billion trees in the next 5 years to combat climate change. Now, just like any other plan, like, this is just like any other plan that, government come up with. So my question is, how do we, and we discussed about this in the previous session, how do we move from just, coming up with such, because I feel like this is just like pronunciation and not quite realistic in terms of, planting 5 billion trees or just, action. So as people who are involved in climate justice, people involved in advocacy work, how can we ensure that government come up with policies that are attainable and measurable, especially when it comes to climate change discussion or climate change issues? Kamel or Sreya or Dali?
Okay, you asked that does our government have any other plan except the afforestation? Yes, government has the plan of afforestation, and afforestation is not the only thing that can be done, but taking care of those trees and plants is very, very important because they are so fragile and they can be they can weather out with the season. This is very, very important. A plantation is not enough, and yeah, we should be doing that. And other plans of the government, they are waste management. They are working for the waste management, burning of the plastic, and here we can see switching to the alternate energy sources. Many industries and some other institutions, they becoming digitalized, and they are shifting to the solar panels and windmills for having more and more energy. But this needs to be enhanced a lot. We need to work a lot on not only on our ground, but at the government level as well, in the private sector, the individual level. Things are being done, people they are doing, but we can say that the speed is slow. We need to work really far ahead. And that's it. Thank you. Yes.
Yes, no, definitely, I totally agree. But in the case of, well, Africa has many examples about how deforestation turned into savanization. And yeah, for example, in Kenya, basically you have the Nakuru forest, which is the one that's being protected, but all the rest is already savanna. So the problem with deforestation, and that's why it's so important to protect our ecosystems, to conserve our ecosystems, is that once there is an intervention, it is very unlikely that it's going to become the same ecosystem again. It's going to transform into another ecosystem, either more humid, depending on the conditions, or in most cases, more drier. And that creates imbalance, and that will affect local populations that are used to having in a specific climate that they have produced. They have been doing agriculture or pastoralism and so on during thousands of years in the same region. But once deforestation starts happening, all the ecosystem is altered. And then you have new conditions. And those examples you can see in Africa, and we're going to start seeing them in Latin America, because of course the use of natural resources in Latin America is new than in Africa, because we only have 500 years of colonization. Africa has already thousands. So it's important to have that in mind. And that's why it's important to break all these patterns that come from colonizations that we are still repeating and repeating, and especially if it's toward these extractive regimes that are leaving us with nothing. They're leaving us with sacrifice zones, especially in all those places where resources are found. No matter if it's diamonds or gold or hydrocarbons, we have seen this in all over the global south. And it's important to have in mind, and it's important to take action on it. So, remind the governments the commitments, and also work with the government so these processes do not keep on happening. So in order not to reach ecocide, as Dalia has mentioned. So, but that's why we need civil society that is prepared, that has knowledge, that is aware of the problem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Carmen and Suraya. Salim, please, over to you. I think let's just move forward and talk about our next steps.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Hiba, for a wonderful session. I really appreciate your moderation. Thank you to our panelists, Kamel, Suraya. Thank you, Dalia, for your insight. We really appreciate, learning from you, and we have gotten so much, and the discussion has been so rich with, with examples and what we need to do, and we really appreciate. Like I said, this is part of our dialogue series. We have one more dialogue series that we are organizing, and it will be happening next month. So it will just be happening alongside, the COP27, and we hope that we can be able to get contribution, because our own Dalia will be there. We also have our other partners who will be in Egypt. So we hope that we can be able to get live feedback from them, and we can also contribute. They can also tell us what is happening and what are some of the resolutions that the parties have come up with and others. So we want to appreciate you, and we want to be able to continue with this kind of discussion, and especially just looking at what Kamel has been talking about. We want to borrow into your vast experience and knowledge into the work you have been doing, your wisdom, and together with Suraya and everybody else in this call. So we'll be sharing summary of this dialogue series in the next couple of weeks, and then we see how we can be able to work together on coming up with policy briefs that we can be able to present as active actors in climate change, and also just being able to contribute to sustainable development goals. So we want to really appreciate you for your time, appreciate you for everything you have been able to contribute, and the work that you are doing. Continue the amazing work. I believe that very soon salvation shall come, and we shall be able to redeem our planet out of climate crisis, and we shall be able to I like what you said, Kamel, that we need to be in terms of even eating, that we need to be careful with how much meat that we eat. So we hope that we can take this gospel to households, and not just at this level, international level, but households need to understand that even eating, their eating habits contribute to climate crisis and climate change and all this. So these are discussions we want to contribute so that we can be able to reach out to every single person from the grassroots to the highest level. Thank you so much, and have a good evening, have a good afternoon, have a good morning, depending on where you are. We really appreciate so much for your time. Over to you, Hiba. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining in, everyone. Please, is someone saying something? No. All right. So thank you so much for joining in, everyone. We will have our next section, and this is going to be the last session, if I'm not wrong, Salim. The third session, which will be on 15th of November. So we would like you to mobilize. You can invite more of your friends as well, and we will try to talk more about. We will conclude all our discussion, and we will talk about the next steps as what we as youth can do to save our environment, save our climate, and to keep this planet a livable planet for all of us, because so far we do not have another one. Thank you so much, everyone. Thanks a lot. Good night, goodbye, and good morning to all of you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye, everybody.